Hey everyone, welcome, it's Zulu. Today I wanted to talk about something that I see affect a lot of people, and honestly I think that most of you struggle with this at some point in your life. That thing is overthinking. Now before we start I want to make one thing clear. I'm just sharing my thoughts and experiences, and maybe some of you will relate to them. Because when I look around, whenever it's online, in relationships, friendships, or even in families, I see so many people making themselves miserable because of the things that didn't even happen. Now let's think about that for a second. And you heard me correctly. Things that didn't even happen. A lot of suffering comes from our imaginations, not from reality, from our own imaginations. Maybe you've done this before. You send somebody a message, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever, and normally they reply pretty quickly. But this time, it's nothing. 10 minutes pass, an hour, maybe even a couple of hours. And then suddenly your brain starts working overtime. And you're starting to wonder, did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? Maybe they're ignoring me. Maybe they don't want to talk with me anymore. And before you know it, you've created this entire story in your head. And the funny thing is that sometimes people are just busy. And then later you will see a reply, sorry, I was at work. And that's it. That's the explanation. But meanwhile, your brain already wrote an entire movie script. And you're forcing these ideas into your brain. Things that didn't even happen and that people don't even have in their minds. And I think that this is one of the biggest problems with overthinking. We start treating assumptions like facts. Just because we think something doesn't mean that it's true. And I know that sometimes it's easier said than done. Because emotions sometimes they just overpower us. Especially when we care about someone. And those feelings just multiply. The more important somebody is to us, the easier it becomes to overthink everything that they do, or everything that we do. Now I really think that fear plays a huge role in all of this. Most people aren't overthinking because they're crazy. They're overthinking because they're scared. Maybe they are scared of losing someone. Or maybe they are scared of just getting hurt. It's also very possible that maybe somebody broke their trust in the past. Maybe they got cheated on. And one of the things that I personally experienced, maybe they opened up to somebody and they got disappointed. Remember, those things leave marks on people, even years later, many years later. Sometimes people don't realize they're reacting to old pain instead of what's happening right now. And I have to tell you, that's really dangerous. Because sometimes new people end up paying for something that they never did. In your head you start expecting that everyone around you will just hurt you. You just think that everybody is the same like the rest. And that's really not fair to them. And it's not fair to yourself. Now one very huge thing that I noticed in our times is social media. And why it makes everything worse. I mean, like way worse than it used to be. Years ago, if somebody wasn't home, they weren't home. You didn't think much about it. That was it. But now, in today's times, we can see so many things, like when people are online, when was the last time they were active, when did they like something, when did they view somebody's story. And then I'm sure that you also notice this, but many people become detectives. And then you start to wonder and think, they were online, but they didn't reply. They liked that person's post, they viewed my story, they replied to somebody else, but not to me. People spend hours analyzing things that probably mean absolutely nothing. And what's the worst part? Sometimes we never even ask the other person what's going on. We just assume everything ourselves. We decide that we already know the answer. And most of the time, we always choose the worst answer possible. Now I don't always know why our brains do what they do, but I think that many times it's just to protect ourselves. I think also that many times we just expect the worst because we think somehow it will just hurt us less. But sadly in many cases that's the complete opposite. And in many cases it makes us miserable before anything bad even happens. It's like paying interest on a debt that you don't even owe. You've already started suffering for something that you don't even know if it will even happen. and that makes you very, very exhausted. I think one of the hardest lessons I've learned personally is that not everything needs an explanation. Sometimes people are busy, sometimes they're tired, sometimes they're just dealing with a lot of things on their mind, and they just don't have the time to talk about it. And you would be surprised, because very often it has nothing to do with you at all. Absolutely. Not everything is a hidden message, not everything is a sign, and not everything means somebody secretly hates you. Sometimes a delayed reply is just a delayed reply. It's really nothing more than that, and nothing less. Now don't get me wrong. Sometimes our instincts are right. Sometimes there is actually a problem. There are times when somebody is really pulling away, and also in many cases there is a lot of things that really needs to be discussed. But remember, there is a big difference between paying attention and creating stories. One is awareness, the other one is anxiety. And if you're constantly creating stories in your head, eventually you will start believing them. And this is also the part where a lot of relationships get damaged. Because people stop reacting to reality, they start reacting to their fears. They become distant, they become defensive or jealous, and often the other person has no idea what's happening. They're confused because they're being judged for something that they didn't even do. You're probably asking yourself, so what can we do about it? And honestly, in my opinion, the first thing you should do is catch yourself. Every time you're starting to lose control, start to ask yourself, do I really know this for a fact? Do I actually know it? Because remember that facts and feelings aren't the same thing. The second thing is communication. Now, I know that maybe you are looking for some kind of secret trick, for some kind of exciting advice, but I'll tell you that a lot of problems are solved by just talking with each other. A lot of things that we spend days worrying about could be solved with 5 minutes of conversation. Always remember that a peace of mind is very valuable. You need to protect it. Don't just hand it over to every random thought in your head. Because not every thought that you have deserves your attention. At the end of the day, overthinking steals something from us. It steals time, it steals energy, it steals your happiness. And sadly, sometimes it even steals relationships. And it's not always because the relationship was bad, but because we ourselves are trapped inside of our own minds. And those are my thoughts on this topic. Now I'm really curious, what do you guys think about it? Do you also struggle with overthinking? Have you ever convinced yourself that something was wrong, and later you found out that everything was completely fine? Please let me know in the comments. I'd really love to hear your stories. Thank you very much for watching, take care of yourselves, and don't forget to chase your dreams, Z Squad.